I'm at MDL's Saxon Wharf Marina here, standing outside Ocean Safety, the home of marine safety equipment. Now for me, safety at sea has always been about staying off a lee shore, making sure nobody goes over the side, being certain your engine's going to start. But sooner or later, things go wrong for nearly everybody. And when they do, we need to feel that we've got the right kit and we need to know how to use it. Steve.
Tom.
Been a long time.
It has indeed, Tom.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm glad to meet you in this context now, Steve, at last, because all my life I've been struggling with safety equipment.
I see, yeah.
It's all around us, and now it's a whole industry. What we can get is unbelievable, and it all costs money. I have to prioritise. I've got a budget, same as everybody else.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that you can help me with that. And
well, I hope so, Tom. We've got an enormous amount of stuff that we can look at.
if I was starting from scratch to kit my boat out with sensible safety gear, what's the most important single thing to start out with?
Well, I would say, Tom, that the life jacket is probably the most important piece of safety equipment that you can have on board your boat. There are many different types to choose. There are solid foam of the old traditional style, which have largely fallen out of favour with modern sailors and cruisers. And I think the one that you're most likely to find suitable is a modern inflatable life jacket. They come in a range of styles now. They're very easy to put on.
Look at that.
There we go. I knew you were coming, Tom. Once you have made the choice of jackets, it may be for husband and wife, it may be for 3 or 4 people on board. It's really important that they're well fitted. There are a number of options available as to the inflation. One is manual only, and this little toggle here, please don't pull it right now, but we'll have a go at that in a moment. The toggle there will activate the firing mechanism inside, which will cause gas to be passed into the bladder and it will inflate. If you're in a position where you've fallen off your boat and into the water, it's likely that you will have been taken by surprise, and it won't be a great experience as you see your boat disappearing over the horizon. So the automatic inflating style is more popular these days than manual only. On immersion, a clever little capsule inside the jacket will do its work, and that again will cause the jacket to inflate automatically. And that's particularly important, certainly around our shores where the water tends to be a little bit chilly, because your first action when you go into the water is what you'll have perhaps heard of as cold water shock. And that will be a gasp. Exactly. If you are 2 feet under the water and that happens, it's not a good position to be in.
It's not, is it?
If your jacket has inflated and popped you straight up to the surface, then you're going to be much safer.
And the automatic inflation thing is interesting to me because I've always felt, well, I don't want a thing going off when I don't want it to. It once did on me. I fell in a dinghy and off it went. So I've always fought shy of them, but you've just told me something that I really hadn't thought about. I always imagined it was because you were daft enough to get clonked by the boom and went over the side unconscious, and that's not going to happen to me. So very unlikely. And so I thought there's no need for that. I'll just pull the string. But actually, you've told me something different.
I think the important thing is that nowadays the manufacture of the automatic capsules has improved so that the instance of an accidental inflation is far fewer. On any particular model of jacket, you'll be able to buy one model without a harness, as this one is. There's nothing here to hook a safety line on. And then you could buy the equivalent or similar jacket with a harness. I've got one here that has a harness on. And you can see here that it has a steel ring or loop, and that allows you to clip your safety line on and the other end onto a jackstay, of course.
Okay, that's what I'm used to.
With or without, your choice. So if you're yachting, you want one. If you're motorboating, probably not. Harnesses these days are often of the 3-hook variety, and they will have a bungee on them. By attaching here, you have a varied length that you can use. So this would be a 1 metre. And then you've got, for a 2 metre, that will expand to 2 metres.
So I've got 2 metres there.
Exactly, yes, yes. Okay. With 3 hooks, you can always keep one attached.
Yeah. So you're never completely detached. In a minute, I'm going to ask you if I can fire this. But before we do, I want to see what's actually in it now.
Well, this is one, Tom, clearly that's been inflated, and there are a number of interesting things that we should be aware of. Under the ISO standard, there must be a lifting strop that is suitably tested.
And that's onto the...
It will be onto the cover and webbing of the jacket. On the back, we can see here, because it's inflated and that's where it's gone, we can see the bit that's done all the work. So up this side, this has been the gas canister, which is now empty, of course. There's a little capsule here that makes the automatic firing head go. And I know that the bit that you really want to get involved with, Tom, is the manual toggle. Because this is the manual toggle that will pull the lever here that will cause the inflation.
Okay.
So why don't we have a look and see what the effect of that is?
Here we go then, right. 1, 2, 3. Blimey, that's it.
Hey presto.
Yeah.
So
exciting, isn't it?
It is, it is. And
2-stage bang.
that's how long it takes.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine yourself having toppled into the water, as soon as that cartridge here has become waterlogged, which is instant, that's happened, pops you straight back to the surface.
Okay. Life rafts. Gosh, huge subject, Steve, and
very big, Tom.
Wonderful things and full of technology. At what point do you think Mr. Average and Mrs. Average, when should they be starting thinking that maybe we should invest in a life raft? Because we know it's a major investment.
That's a really good question, Tom. It's largely a matter of choice, and I think distance and closeness or proximity to safe haven is one of the things that will come into play. Indeed, if you're wearing life jackets and they're functioning properly and you're sailing, as you say, from Southampton to Cowes, as lots of people do, you could easily be excused, I think, from saying, I'm going to go to the expense of a life raft. But you have to put yourself in a position that for some reason you're out on a voyage and suddenly the boat that you're sitting on is no longer there. What will you do? And it's a question that each crew has to answer for themselves, to be fair. The life raft is always the point of last choice. A stricken boat will always be stronger than the crew that is left aboard it, provided of course it's not a flaming inferno. But a boat that is still afloat will last a lot longer than the crew inside will. And so you need to have a plan that will deal with the process you go for to decide when and under what circumstances you'll abandon. You need to have a functioning life raft that will fit the bill. That will be doing what you need to do. Now the cost, as you've said, of life rafts is not insignificant. So as well as the purchase option, many companies, including of course Ocean Safety, will offer you a hire option. So you can hire life rafts of varying standards to suit your needs over a longer or shorter period.
That's really good, isn't it?
Having equipment, as we've described, that is taken as a last resort, i.e. the boat's no longer there, you need the life raft to function and know it's going to function.
You absolutely do. Yeah, and it's no good pinching pennies on that, no.
Not at all. No, and what I would say on that, Tom, is that servicing is carried out by approved service stations. What I'd also add to that is take the time out to attend an RYA sea survival course.
It all depends on being found, doesn't it? Somebody's got to know you're in distress and they've got to find you. And that seems to me to open up a whole new world of equipment.
Each of the emergency packs will contain the traditional pyrotechnics that many yachtsmen have become so familiar with over the years.
And even if you haven't got a life raft, we should probably be carrying a pack of these, should we?
Very much so. They are the traditional method of showing where you are to search and rescue assets or vessels coming to your aid. There are 3 different types, fundamentally. We have the small one here, which is designed to be held in the hand. Then we have a slightly larger item here, which is a rocket that fires nicely up to the sky.
Yeah, these will be dummies, I hope, aren't they?
Yes, Tom. We're not gonna set anything alight today, hopefully. Okay. And then this is the buoyant smoke, which is simply a can that's dropped into the water after it's ignited and emits clouds and clouds of orange smoke for 3 or 4 minutes. As a leisure user, you're not compelled to carry them at all, but some means of showing your location are really vital to ensure that there is as much chance as possible of you being spotted.
It does seem to me to be common sense, at least even if you're only sailing short range.
Absolutely.
To carry something like this, which is going to show the search and rescue.
Quite right, yes.
Smoke would work the same, wouldn't it?
Yes, smoke's particularly useful when helicopters are involved rescuing, because in a crowd of boats, if there was a medical casualty, who's to say which boat that casualty is on, but a smoke drifting alongside the vessel in the water, that will get them there.
Yeah. The red handheld flare obviously produces a dazzling light and does a great job. But these days we've got LEDs, and I'm seeing in chandleries electrical alternatives to this. They couldn't replace the parachute flare, but the handheld pinpoint flare, you know, this is only going to burn for so long. It's environmentally horrible. Why can't we just go with these new electric ones?
You're absolutely right in what you say. The new type of electronic flares and beacons are becoming very, very popular because, like you say, they will run for longer. They have batteries inside which simply need replacing at their expiry date. But I'm afraid to say that at this point there is no prospect or real prospect of the traditional and conventional pyrotechnic flare being fully replaced under maritime laws, rules and regulations by the electronic versions.
Well, there you go. That's all right. Well, that answers my question. If I'm running a commercial vessel, it's got to be the old-fashioned pyrotechnics. But for me, with my private yacht, is there any legal reason why I shouldn't be having a couple of those on there? Or well, I only need one, don't I? Because it's a pinpoint flare.
Tom, the really good news is the answer to that question is that you can use these on your leisure vessel in place of the traditional pyrotechnic versions. You're fully entitled to use this.
The fact that you can put it on like that is absolutely brilliant, because it means you can test it for yourself and satisfy yourself. With a traditional one, it's well, with a bit of luck, it's going to work.
Here's hoping. Yes, Tom, absolutely. You can press the test button and the flare will activate, giving you the assurance that it's going to work.
So really, for the leisure user, they've got a lot going for them, and they're environmentally friendly.
One of the biggest areas of interest that we see here is in the field of locator beacons, be it an EPIRB, a PLB, or the man overboard AIS beacons.
What's the difference?
It's a really clear difference. This, for example, is an EPIRB. EPIRB standing for Electronic Position Indicating Radio Beacon.
Yep.
It operates by, on activation, emitting a data transmission, which is picked up by orbiting satellites. Those satellites will relay the data to the Search and Rescue Coordination Centre for the home flag state of the vessel, and that home flag state coordination centre will see about organising search and rescue.
Okay.
One of the fundamentals about owning an EPIRB means that you must register it with your national EPIRB registry.
Yes.
The EPIRB is a fantastic piece of equipment. It can be mounted on the bracket, and on detection of an incident and perhaps the need to abandon ship, it's removed from the bracket and can be carried with you. It will operate on contact with the water. It has a lanyard which can be tied to a life raft, for example, so that it can be left to float. Alternatively, there is of course a manual operation switch here.
Yep.
It will work for 48 hours as a minimum, so it will broadcast for 48 hours. Wherever you are in the world, this signal will be detected and search and rescue assets will be sent to look for you and find you.
Okay, it's a little bit beyond our remit, but if you're in the middle of the wilds of the Pacific or halfway between Jan Mayen and Greenland, there's not going to be a helicopter or a lifeboat, is there?
Tom, indeed, but nonetheless, the fact that there is an emergency situation going on there will be known to the search and rescue authorities, because their satellite network will have detected it.
So they may divert the nearest ship or something like that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. What about the poor soul who's gone over the side on his own in the dark and is likely to get lost from the ship?
Well, Tom, indeed, we have also now got what you might call son or daughter of EPIRB, and this is the Personal Locator Beacon, or PLB, as it's often referred to.
Is that a generic term, PLB?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
It works with exactly the same technology as the 406 EPIRB. It transmits on 406 megahertz frequency. It's clearly much smaller and therefore it's very portable for the individual. It operates for slightly less time, 24 hours instead of 48 hours for the EPIRB. Typically, PLBs don't float. They're available with pouches, which will allow it to float. Some brands now are developing PLBs that do float, but consequently they are tending to get a little bit bigger.
That's not what they're about though, is it? It's supposed to be for the person.
It's for the person, absolutely. This won't activate on immersion in water, and it needs to be activated manually. So on this particular model, you can see here, there is an on-off switch. The antenna needs to be extended and pointed as vertically as possible to the sky. Right. But those differences aside, it effectively works in exactly the same way as a 406 EPIRB. That is, anywhere in the world, signals from this beacon will be detected. It's broadcast at the same power. It also has a GPS transmission in it, which will send GPS coordinates. As you can see, they are very compact, very small and lightweight. Yeah, and indeed, they do have clips and fastenings that allow them to be attached to life jackets. But I think it'd be wrong to say that that is their sole purpose. Clearly, if you have it attached to your life jacket, it means that you must be wearing your life jacket when you fall overboard. And if you're not, you won't have the beacon. So my own personal view is that it's best to be attached to a webbing belt or in your waterproofs or trousers so that you've always got it about you. EPIRB and PLB technology, broadcasting on 406 megahertz, is received by orbiting satellites and used by worldwide search and rescue assets. And to be honest, there are no leisure vessels or indeed commercial vessels that have equipment on board that would enable those vessels to pick up signals broadcast in that way. When we look at the alternative, the personal AIS beacon, that's a different story. That allows much more localized search and rescue to take place. And it's really important that owners of personal locator beacons and AIS beacons understand the difference between the two. And in summary, I would describe that as being EPIRBs and PLBs are worldwide search and rescue. Personal AIS beacons, such as the Moby 1, are for localized search and rescue. This is a personal AIS beacon. This transmits on a VHF signal, so effectively line of sight. And that translates to having a much shorter range. The manufacturers would claim between 4 and 6 nautical miles. Clearly that will vary depending upon the sea state that you're in and any masts nearby that may be able to pick up the signal. But it's a very clever piece of equipment. The Moby 1 transmits a VHF signal on activation, coupled with a GPS signal, which gives an easy indication of the location of the beacon, together with a range and bearing to it.
Just like an AIS from a ship?
Exactly. This is a direct descendant of ship's AIS. Someone had a great idea to convert it. Wow. And because it's personal and it is so compact, it really goes well with being packed inside a life jacket. In this particular example, we've got a clip on here that would clip around the oral tube of a life jacket.
The blow-up tube?
That's exactly it, yes. Yeah. This lanyard will be tied reasonably snugly around the bladder. And then when the bladder inflates and grows larger, this slider will be pulled across and the unit will activate.
Blow me down.
It can be programmed with the mother vessel's MMSI number, which means that on activation, it will transmit a DSC call to the mother vessel's DSC-enabled radio, and you will get an alarm call. So if someone were to fall overboard at night or when nobody's looking, the alarm call should alert the crew to the fact that someone's overboard.
Brilliant. And this will presumably be putting an AIS target on my plotter screen.
Yes, but it tends to be a circle with a pink cross through it.
So it won't look like yet another triangular ship with a vector coming out in the front.
And also it will show up with the serial number of the beacon, which will start with a 972.
So there's no question about which target is the one you want?
Exactly, no. Yeah. That's
and
right.
You just steer the ship back to it, and then once the person's alongside, the next question arises: how are you going to get them on board? When I was teaching sailing, we always had on the back of the boat, we had a couple of horseshoe life rings which were hanging in little frames that were always on the skew somehow. They never looked tidy. And attached to them by a piece of string, there was a drogue and a great big Dan buoy, which was a solid thing with a great weight on the bottom and a float, and it just hung on the backstay somehow. It was untidy. The flag used to come undone, just messy. And then I discovered the John buoy. So I'm completely sold on these. I've got the small one, which I think we've got back here, but I'm fascinated by this.
This is the John buoy recovery module, and it's Ocean Safety's answer to the assistance of getting a casualty out of the water safely back on board. There are a number of advantages here. First and foremost, there is a small platform that the casualty can put themselves into, and they will be held largely out of the water. So the effects of cold water and therefore the potential for hypothermia to set in is reduced. And underneath here, you can see,
look at this.
There's a water pocket that fills, and this has a metal keel that will help give stability to the unit. This is what prevents it from tipping over. Right. Very nicely weighted onto the sea. As well as giving respite from the water, this is a much bigger target for search and rescue to look for. It has the benefit of a light which will activate on contact with water. The fabric itself is a special high visibility glow light style which reflects light extremely well in reduced visibility. There is a lanyard that can be passed or thrown to the mother vessel that's attached to the module. It's 5 meters long. It will secure the module alongside. So once that's taken place, you can be sure that the casualty won't drift off again and require another rescue. The next part is to actually winch the whole structure on board with the casualty lying or sitting inside, with the use of this lifting becket, which is attached by Velcro to the mast. Okay. Now this can be attached to a halyard, and then the whole structure is winched upwards. As you can just about see, the sections here makes it completely stable.
Yep.
For those not lucky enough to have electric winches, a solution that we've devised is something that we call a handy billy.
This is old style seamanship.
It's ropes and tackles. Blocks and tackles, Tom. Blocks and tackles.
Proper job.
It's a 6-to-1 mechanical advantage that opens out.
Yeah.
And by attaching one end to the lifting becket and the other end to the halyard, it's very simple with a mechanical advantage to lift
you rig it in
everything
such a way that you're pulling down, not up.
Correct.
We've covered most of it. There's just a couple of things here. There's fire extinguishers and first aid kits. And we all know that there are a certain number of fire extinguishers that any sensible sailor will have on his boat. It's all written down in the specifications. You can find it on websites, and we know what you should have. The same with first aid kits, really. I think that unless you're going around the world or going on a great long trip, what you can take is going to depend on who's on board, how far you're going to go. You can find this. The RWA will help you. There's all sorts of common sense ways around it.
You've hit that fair and square on the head. It needs to work, and you need to know how to use it. We've got a service team in this building that will look after the servicing of all your safety kit. The guys have been carrying out normal life jacket servicing work all day. This one's been service, and so we can reasonably expect that all the parts and components have been replaced when necessary. It's important to remember that periodically you should make checks yourself to your jacket to make sure that the important components are going to do the job that they're supposed to. Things you must pay attention to are that the cylinder remains screwed firmly into its operating mechanism where it will have been put by the service technician, and attached firmly hand tight. Okay. Over a period of time of wearing, you'll understand with movement, it is possible for these to work a little loose.
Really?
If it unscrews too far, then the mechanism won't puncture the cylinder. No. Other things to note, on an automatic capsule such as this one, you can see that there is a green disc.
Is this a water activated one?
This disc signifies that this capsule is armed and ready to go. As does this green clip here, which signifies that this toggle has not been pulled. Pulling the toggle will cause the clip to fly off. If either of these are missing, and more importantly showing red, as in this particular example, this indicates that this is fired and won't then work in a an immersion situation. We as manufacturers issue service manuals for each jacket, and within that manual it will contain things like folding procedures and processes that these guys are trained in and know how to.
Yeah, because I know for a fact
facilitate.
it's not always that easy to get your jacket back into its wrapper.
It's not as easy as it looks.
No, it's not.
By coming to an approved service station, you can be guaranteed that all the processes will be repeated time and time again to the correct standard.
Steve, you've got to chuckle, you know, looking around this floor here at these life rafts being done by highly skilled guys. I remember donkeys years ago, too long ago for me to admit, I actually tried to service my own life raft in order to save money because I didn't have much. And what a disaster. Yeah. You know, I got it out of the case and I did what I thought I had to do, and I didn't know whether I'd done it right or not, but I started to try and put it back. I couldn't get it back. Not to save my life, so I had to take the mortal remains to the professionals, and they sorted it out. They were very kind to me, and they charged me the money, and the job was done. Life jackets maybe, but life rafts, it's a non-starter, isn't it?
Tom, you're absolutely right there. These guys have been trained, they've been working at this for an awful long time, some of them, and it's not something that the layman can begin to do and attempt with success. It really needs to come to a professional service station, and I would add, really importantly, that the service station must be one that's been trained by the life raft manufacturer, has therefore got the necessary skills and knowledge, but also the necessary spare parts that the manufacturer designates for that raft. That's the only way to ensure that you will have a fully functioning, operating life raft at the time you need it.
The average person may not go on a sea survival course. They don't know what their life raft looks like. Is it possible for them to come to a place like this?
We do encourage owners, when they're booking the life raft services, to make an appointment to come in, because it gives you a picture of what you may one day be confronted with.
Absolutely.
It's better to know than not know.
Yeah, it really is. Well, that's terrific. Is it necessary for a customer to bring the raft into a service centre, or are there other arrangements that can be made these days?
Tom, they're certainly very welcome to bring their own equipment, but we've made an arrangement with MDL specifically for their berth holders, which will enable them to drop off all of their LSA life-saving appliances with their dockmaster, and then from there the equipment comes to us for service and eventually returned to the owner.
Perfect. So that's life rafts and life jackets.
Life rafts, life jackets.
Click and collect.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, Steve, that's brilliant. That's been a really good day. I arrived here, as usual, with a head full of preconceived ideas, and as is so often the case, the professional has moved my mind along. So thanks very much. It's been a great day.